Hello and welcome to another presentation in the Code Web Training series, providing instructions in the manual application of the ICD-10 International Rules and Guidelines for Mortality Classification. This presentation examines the instructions on surgery and other medical procedures applying step M4. My name is Saman Gamage. I work as a Senior Technical Advisor on Medical Certification and ICD under the Data for Health initiative of the CDC Foundation. And I will be your guide through this presentation along with Patricia Wood and Yusuf Hammond. This presentation and others in the series are based on the WHO Mortality Classification Rules and Guidelines found in ICD-10 Volume 2. These rules and guidelines have been the subject of numerous updates over the years, and we use the 2016 version, which is the most recent readily available one. If you don't already have a copy of the 2016 version of Volume 2, you can find it at the link on this slide. This slide is a reminder of the ICD-10 mortality coding process. First, the mortality classification rules and guidelines in ICD-10 Volume 2 are applied to cause of death information reported on the Standard International Medical Certificate of Cause of Death. Next, an ICD-10 code should be assigned to each cause of death reported. Basic coding guidelines can be found in Volume 2 of ICD-10. And finally, the mortality classification rules and guidelines found in Chapter 4 of ICD-10 Volume 2 are applied to the coded information on the death certificate. After coding all causes of death reported, the first step in choosing an underlying cause of death is to select the tentative starting point. This is done by applying selection steps SP1 to SP8 as per the rules and guidelines found in ICD-10 Volume 2, Section 4.1 to 4.2.1. This material is covered in other presentations in this series. So if you need a refresher on it, please look at other videos on this channel. Once a tentative starting point has been selected, the next step is to check whether it is subject to modification by any other information on the certificate. The special instructions for applying the modification steps M1 to M4 are found in Volume 2 in sections 4.2.2 and 4.2.5 through 4.2.9. Today's topic is Step M4. For Step M4, special instructions are available in section 4.2 of Volume 2 under 4 main areas. This means Step M4 is applicable for 4.2.6 special instructions on main injury in deaths from external causes, 4.2.7 special instructions on poisoning by drugs, medicaments, and biological substances, 4.2.8 special instructions on maternal mortality, and 4.2.9 special instructions on surgery and other medical procedures. These 4 topics will be discussed in 4 separate videos. And today we will discuss about Step M4, 4.2.9, special instructions on surgery and other medical procedures. These instructions are available in the section 4.2.9 of Volume 2 of ICD-10. Step M4, if the underlying cause you arrived at by applying steps SP1 to SP8 and steps M1 to M4 is surgery or another type of medical procedure, apply the instructions in section 4.2.9 of Volume 2, 2016 edition, special instructions on surgery and other medical procedures. Instructions on surgery and other medical procedures. These instructions are available, as I told you before, in the section 4.2.9 of Volume 2. And instructions are available in 4 areas. A, reason for surgery or procedure stated. B, reason for surgery or procedure not stated, complication reported. C, reason for surgery or procedure not stated, no complication reported. D, medical devices associated with adverse incidents due to external causes. Let's discuss these areas one by one. Part A. So this special instruction is applied when the reason for surgery or procedure is stated in the death certificate. If the underlying cause of death selected is surgery or another type of procedure, and the reason for surgery or procedure is reported, select the reason for surgery or procedure as the underlying cause of death. Next, reapply SP7 and M1 to M4. Now, in this example, 1A postoperative hemorrhage, line 1B cesarean section is reported, and cesarean section led to postoperative hemorrhage, and SP3 selected 075.4. The reason for cesarean section is mentioned in the certificate, and it is prolonged labor. Therefore, code the prolonged labor as the underlying cause of death. Therefore, the underlying cause of death is O63.9, long labor unspecified, which is the reason for surgery. Now we move on to part B of the section 4.2.9 of volume 2. These instructions are applied when the reason for surgery or procedure is not stated and a complication is reported. In part B, instructions are available under 3 areas. In section 1, determine whether the type of surgery or procedure indicates a specific organ or site. If the surgery indicates a specific organ, use the code for the residual category for the organ or site operated on as the new tentative underlying cause of death. Next, reapply the instructions in steps SP7 and M1 to M4. And now we can discuss an example on this. 1A, pulmonary embolism. 1B, appendectomy. In part 2, no condition is reported. The certificate does not specify the reason for surgery, but a complication, pulmonary embolism, is reported. There is no default code for the term appendectomy because it's a surgery. The term appendectomy indicates the appendix as the organ operated, and we have a residual category for appendix. Diseases of the appendix, the code is K38.9. Therefore, we can assign K38.9 diseases of the appendix unspecified as the underlying cause of death. So this is the second instruction in part B of section 4.2.9 of volume 2. If the type of surgery or procedure does not indicate an organ or site, check whether the certificate mentions a misadventure at the time of the procedure. If it does, use 074, complications of anesthesia during labor or delivery, 075.4, other complications of obstetric surgery or procedures, Y60 to Y69, misadventures to patients during surgical and medical care. Here is an example on part B of 4.2.9. 1A, accidental puncture of the aorta. 1B, laparotomy. And in part 2, no condition is reported. Before I proceed, let me explain the medical terms included in this death certificate. We talk about aorta. Aorta is the largest artery in the body. And during a laparotomy, this means when the abdomen is open up, there is a possibility that aorta is punctured inadvertently. The certificate does not specify the reason for the surgery, and the term laparotomy does not indicate a specific organ. When the aorta is punctured inadvertently or accidentally, it can bleed and the patient can die of hemorrhage. A misadventure is mentioned at the time of the surgery, which is accidental puncture during laparotomy, and quote the misadventure, accidental puncture during laparotomy as the underlying cause of death. The ICD-10 code is Y60.0, unintentional cut, puncture, perforation, or hemorrhage during surgical and medical care. And this is the third section under 4.2.9, section B. If the type of surgery or procedure does not indicate an organ or site, and there is no mention of misadventure at the time of the procedure, use the appropriate code from O74, O75.4, or Y83 to Y84 as the underlying cause of death. O74 is complications of anesthesia during labor and delivery. O75.4 is other complications of obstetric surgery and procedures. Y83 to Y84 covers surgical operation and other surgical procedures as the cause of abnormal reaction of the patient or of later complication without mention of misadventure at the time of the procedure. So this is the part C of section 4.2.9 in volume 2. Reason for surgery or procedure not stated, no complication reported. These instructions are applied when the reason for surgery is not stated and no complication is reported in the death certificate. First, check whether the alphabetical index gives a default code for the reason of the surgery or procedure. If it does, this is the new starting point. Next, apply the instructions in steps SP7 and M1 to M4 as described earlier. Under this section, when a complication of surgery or procedure not mentioned, it is not necessary to code the surgery or the procedure. If the alphabetical index does not give a default code for the reason of the surgery or procedure, determine whether the type of surgery or procedure indicates a specific organ or site. If it does, then use the code for the residual category for the organ or site operated on as the new starting point. Next, apply the instructions in steps SP7 and M1 to M4 as described earlier. If the alphabetical index does not give a default code and the type of surgery or procedure does not indicate an organ or site, code to R99, other ill-defined and unspecified causes of mortality. Here is an example under part C of section 4.2.9. 1A, laparotomy, and no other condition is reported. As you know, laparotomy is just the opening up of abdomen during surgery. The certificate does not specify why the surgery was performed, and the term laparotomy does not indicate a specific organ. And there is no mention of a complication. Code R99, other ill-defined and unspecified causes of mortality as the underlying cause of death. Let's move on to the section D of 4.2.9, medical devices associated with adverse incidents due to external causes. If a death is caused by an incident involving a medical device, but the incident is due to an external cause and not to any breakdown or malfunctioning of the device itself, quote the external cause as the underlying cause of death. If the external cause of the incident is not specifically classified, quote to X59.9, unspecified factor causing unspecified injury. These special instructions are applied even when the reason for surgery is known and specified. We do not use the reason for surgery as the underlying cause of death because an external cause unrelated to the disease or treatment intervened in the course of death. This picture shows a patient undergoing artificial ventilation, and this is related to the next example I will discuss. The following example is about an incident involving a ventilator. This patient is connected to a ventilator and there is an endotracheal tube inserted through the patient's mouth and it goes inside the trachea. Let's discuss the example under section D. 1A, inhalation pneumonia. 1B, hemorrhage of the trachea. 1C, fell from bed while attached to the ventilator. Part 2, respiratory treatment following liver transplant. This patient has undergone a liver transplant. He was in a bed and attached to a ventilator. He fell from the bed while being ventilated and died of inhalation pneumonia caused by bleeding inside the trachea due to the traction of endotracheal tube because the endotracheal tube was inside his trachea when he fell. There is no mention of breakdown or malfunctioning of the ventilator or the tracheal tube. Therefore, quote the external cause of the incident. Code W06, fall involving bed because the accidental fall was the external cause. In this picture, you can see an intra-aortic balloon pump used during heart surgery. The following example is about an incident involving an IABP, which is intra-aortic balloon pump, during heart surgery on a patient who has had a recent myocardial infarction. In this example, line 1A, pulmonary edema. Line 1B, intra-aortic balloon pump stopped. Line 1C, power cut due to hurricane. Line 1D, recent myocardial infarction with mitral insufficiency. The balloon pump stopped working because of a power cut, not because of any malfunctioning or breakdown. Therefore, quote the external cause of the incident. Quote the reason for the power cut, cataclysmic storm as the underlying cause of death. The code is X37. This is the last example for the step M4 under the section 4.2.9 of volume 2. We will post a few exercises on this module. You can do the exercises which will be discussed during the next Coder web training. I hope this video was helpful and that you enjoyed it. Thank you.